So what you have been doing is exploring an experience. Experience we call learning, and how you learn, and hopefully how you learn at your best. So you picked a good example. You began exploring, how did I learn that? And what were the features that facilitated that? And so what you've begun to do is to learn your learning strategy. It may or may not fit with this kind of learning, because there's many different kinds of learnings. So what we're going to do is to look at some beliefs about learnings, and then states of learning, the best learning states, as we keep reviewing what NLP is about. Before we do that, just to give you a chance in case there's a burning question that arose as you did that process, questions about beginning to explore an experience with just asking kind of these basic questions. How did that go? Did you find some insights and some awarenesses about your learning? One of the ways I've been introducing ACMC in the last 2 years is warning about 3 meta-programs that can get in the way of your learning. And if you've been at ACMC in the last 2 years, you would have heard this. And the reason I've been doing it is because these 3, if you don't shift them, when you're learning something new, you won't learn at all. Number 1 is global. Because when you're processing things globally, you're missing all the details. And that's where the critical distinctions are. So if you're global, you'll have the assumption so quickly, I've got it. It's about strategies. and so you think you'll have it until someone asks you some detailed questions, and then you'll realize you don't have it. So put into your mind, what am I missing? If you're global, you're missing a lot. So just put it in your mind, what am I missing? Go look for it, and it'll help you to get more detailed. So if you have a tendency to go global, this will help you to identify and discover the things that otherwise you wouldn't even be inputting. If you're a mismatcher, and I know this one from personal experience because I was mismatching as I was reading, and what I was because I was looking for difference, I wasn't getting that person's point or learning. And one time while reading a book, somebody said, oh, I want to read that book. What's that book about? And I couldn't answer them. I was devoting my time and energy and effort reading this book, and I couldn't answer the question. What is it about? I could tell you all the things I disagreed. So if you're mismatching, you're looking for differences. Yes, but. Yes, but. And so you're not getting whatever the yes is. Because you're quickly. So if you go to matching, let me see if I can understand this information, this material, the point, on the person's perspective and words, whether I agree with it or not. I can make that decision later, whether I agree or not. In fact, when I disagree later, it'll be because I've done a thorough understanding, and I thoroughly understand what I'm disagreeing about, instead of just yes, but. So if you tend to be a mismatcher, plant this question. What is, how can I match the sameness of the author? How can I match the sameness of the presenter? What is the presenter presenting? And how can I say the same thing? In one way, you had a great example when BJ described his learning strategy. So he was using the words of the presenter and testing them out. As I see myself and hear myself saying those same words doesn't make sense. So that's a much better strategy for learning something new. So mismatch. The other is options. So the problem with options is you're asking yourself the question, how else can I do it? How else can I do it? What's the alternative? And that's a great question if you know how to do it. But if you're learning something brand new, you don't know how to do it yet. So you need to be looking for how to do it right, how to do it proper. And so you learn the keys, you learn the keyboard, learn the scales before you learn to play music. You know, just go and do it on your own. First, you need the basics. So procedures is getting the basics. So what is the proper way to learn this? Once you know that, then asking the option question is great. How else can I do it? What are the alternatives in terms of enriching it and changing it in some way? So 3 meta programs that obviously play a big role in learning. Now there's many more. Those are some good beginning ones. And this will also be a good example that when you go modeling something, if you're going to model effective learning, which meta programs support effective learning when I'm learning something new, and which meta programs would actually make learning really hard and difficult to actually get it. And there's quite a few meta programs. Those 3 are pretty basic. NLP, what is NLP? The first book of NLP that was described as an NLP book was NLP Volume 1. Robert Dilts was the writer. He co-wrote it with 4 others. And he subtitled it, The Study of the Structure of Subjective Experience. So NLP is the study of experience. All human experience is subjective. So that word is kind of redundant. So it's a study of experience. It's a study of subjective experience. It's the study of the structure. So we started with a structure when we look at the movie in the mind and how we represent things happening. Now, when we go to the meta model and we go to language and how language helps us to encode information about some experience, we've got nouns, objects. We've got verbs, things that happen. We've got other objects. That'll be the objective. So the subject and the objective, what we're trying to accomplish. Then we have some adjectives that will define the nouns. And we've got some adverbs that define the verbs. So we start with just a little bit of grammar. But the point isn't grammar. The point is what it does to neurology. So it's neuro-linguistic. So when you are trying to understand an experience, something is taking some action on something to achieve some goal. So how do you represent it? So the first thing we do in the meta model is to look for the nouns that are not specified. He rejected me. Okay, me, I see you. Who's he? So native speakers of English just naturally know to ask that question. And that's what John Grinder introduced into NLP, the transformational grammar, that there's something intuitive. He rejected me. Who did? So we need to get, John. Okay, John. Now, as I detail that in, John rejected. Rejected? Unspecified verb. What did John do? Well, he said he was going to pick me up and we'd go for coffee, and he forgot, and he didn't show up. Oh. So now I see John not doing something, and to me, so specified, unspecified. So the first thing the meta model does, and this is a review of the meta model, it fleshes out and details out a fuller picture of what we're talking about. So here's an experience. John rejected me. But that's pretty vague, and I can't, I can't make a picture of he. I've got very vague, ambiguous picture of a male person doing something that's called rejection. I don't have that. I've got me. So what the meta model does is to make fuller, richer, more robust, more vivid, more compelling my map of my experience. And first of all, it's for me to be more fully aware, and then for someone else as I communicate that. So the meta model, and you've seen this diagram in Coaching Essentials, and it would be in the prac. This is the logical levels of the meta model. So we start with deletions. What's been left out? So sometimes different processes have been left out. So these would be the adverbs and adjectives that are not specified. The reference has been left out, or a simple deletion or a comparative deletion. So sometimes the problem with a map is there's not enough there. Things have been left out. Characteristics, qualities, factors have been left out. And if you're global, you probably won't notice. That's why planting the question, what am I missing? What's left out? And so this is on the deletions, because every map deletes things. Some things need to be deleted, and then some things delete that, and you got an impoverished map. And it's the impoverishment of the map that creates an impoverishment of my experience. When I have a richer map, my experience will be richer. Then we got generalizations. We've got the universal quantifiers, everybody, nobody, all, never. We got the modal operators. So this is a generalization. I should go to work. I need to exercise. I can finish that project. So the modal operators, which indicates some of the rules that I'm operating by, the rules in the back of my head. Either or is a generalization that's a very childish generalization. It separates the world into this or that. So am I strong or weak? Is it night or day? And so there's no room for anything in between. So it's overgeneralizing and at the same time distorting. Many of these things could be put in any of these categories. The categories are not an absolute category. And then over and under defined words. So over and under defined is what Korzybski talked about in Science and Sanity. Most words are over and at the same time under defined. She'll make a good wife. He'll make a good husband. Okay, good husband. So underdefined in terms of extensional descriptions. Extensional is how does he operate in the kitchen, in the bedroom, in the living room, in, so what is this good husband? And so over and under defined terms, the term is underdefined extensionally and overdefined intentionally. Now that's not intention, that's intention with an S. So intention is what I'm intending, but this is intention. And so extensionally, I'm underdefined it. And that's where the shock comes. I thought I married a good husband. I thought I married a good wife. So how are you handling the finances? How are you handling, you never clean up or pick up after, so this is extensional. But intentional is that idealistic description that I have in my head, and I've overdefined it. So that's the difference between over and under defined terms. So that's in communication magic, and it's a generalization. We got a lot of distortions. We got the mind reading distortion. We've got the complex equivalence. We've got the cause effect. We've got the nominalization. We got the lost performative, which is a sentence. Then from Korzybski, we've got pseudo words, like the word awful, or like the word unicorn when we're talking about the world of animals. Now, if we're talking about the world of fairy tales, that would be a real word. But in the world of biology, it's not a real word, a pseudo word. There's no referent. Personalizing is that egocentric thinking that is personalizing, and so it's distorting different things. And then static words, so this would be the Aristotelian type of thinking in the meta-programs. It would be the rigid mindset versus the growth mindset, to use that distinction. So the static words, which most words are dynamic and have multiple meanings and evolve depending on who's using them and when. Then we have 4 structural pieces. We have the presuppositions. So these are the things way in the back of the mind. I'm just assuming. I'm just presupposing. And so if you're not detailing things, then these things will just be accepted, and they may be the problem. So what am I assuming? What are you assuming? Would be the challenge to presuppositions. Once again, the modal operators oftentimes operate at this level because of the rules that they're presupposing. So what kind of a world are you living in? A world of necessity, a world of pressure, a world of possibility, a world of impossibility, a world of possibility, potential, a world of ability, capacity, I can. So that would be the modal operator. Identification, which is now the complex equivalence about self. I am. And the static nature of identification, that's all I am. So I'm a father when I'm not fathering anymore, or I'm a teacher when I'm not teaching anymore. I've got identity crisis because that's all I was. And then metaphors. It's like. And so being careful with the metaphors. And we heard a couple metaphors from BJ this morning. Did you hear the metaphors? And did you catch the metaphors as you were doing it? Did you hear your own metaphors? Did you hear the other person's metaphors? Metaphors are so hidden silent, they can just slide in and you never notice, and it's easy to assume that they're real and not just a comparison to something else that you do know. So with all these distinctions, these meta-model distinctions, these are the things that we're going to challenge and specify when we come to this. So it shows up on the screen of the movie of your mind, the theater of your mind in this way. Way behind there are all those structural things. And there's all kinds of things left out of the experience. And a lot of this is just vague and fluffy. And we want to detail it so the picture comes into focus as to what we're really talking about. So with the meta model, there's really just 2 things we do with it. Some things we specify, like deletions we specify. So who's better than who? Better by what standards? What are you referring to? So we're specifying. Specifically, how is that cruel? That's an adverb. How is that cruel? We also start specifying these things. How does this cause that? How is this equivalent to that? How do you know that this is what they're thinking or feeling? So we specify. So with deletions and distortions, we get more specific. So that's why detailing is going to be really critical for these two aspects. The other two we challenge. So this is where you need your skeptical state, and because you're challenging, you're questioning, you're doubting, you're asking someone to give some evidence, give something that's going to make it more credible. So we're going to challenge everybody. You have to. It's this or that. There's nothing in between. So we challenge, or we challenge here. Does that metaphor really bring out your best? So the two big skills of meta-modeling will be specifying and challenging. So the state you need to be in is detailing and then being skeptical and looking for how it could be in some other way than it's being presented. So with the meta model and these distinctions, then we got all kinds of questions. And the questions then helps us to map out the theater on the mind and what's going on. So we have a skill, and it's called representational tracking. Who knows what representational tracking means? We got a few people know representational tracking. Representational tracking is take a word, and just with that word, so you've got to be in a know-nothing state and not put anything more to it. With that word, can I track that onto the theater of the mind? So if somebody says, John made a fool of us this morning in the office in the boardroom. John made a fool of us this morning in the boardroom. So the place is the boardroom. Okay, so which boardroom specifically? And all the questions about what does that look like and where is that and what was there. John, if we know who John is. If we don't, then who are you talking about? John who? Made a fool of us. I can't track that onto the... So now I've got lots of questions. First of all, who's John? And then, okay, John, and how did he make a fool of you? What did he actually do that you're jumping to this conclusion that he made a fool of us? It's a cause-effect. Something he did causes us to feel foolish or be seen as foolish, or however the word fool is being used. So if you can't representationally track, you've got questions to ask. So if you're skeptical and you need to specify, then that's what the questions helps you to do with someone. So that's how the meta model works. You find the distinction, and you ask the question to either challenge or specify. Now, a lot of these distinctions that we start, up through the first two categories, it's natural. It's intuitive, if you're a natural speaker of the language, to ask the question. The question is just a regular type of question that you would automatically go to. But the last two are not. So when you learn the meta model, these usually come real easy. So you hear a universal quantifier, well, nobody likes me. And you just naturally, nobody. You just naturally go there. So most of our intuitions are primed already for this. But our intuitions are not primed for this. So this is where you have to learn to ask those questions. So when you hear someone says, she makes me mad, our tendency is just to go, yeah, I know, she makes me mad too. So we don't have a natural tendency. How does that work? and to ask those challenging questions. So I'll give you a moment. Questions about this? Because this is what you'll be doing when you interview and when you are looking for information for modeling some experience. So every experience we've given you is a pretty global statement, like resilience. So what is, I can't map that onto the screen. So first of all, specifically, what do you mean by resilience, or communication, or respect, or healthy, and et cetera?
In the structures, we have 4 listed. Does metaprogram fit into structure? If someone is global?
So metaprogram is a different, it's looking not at language. This is looking at language and how language works. And metaprograms is looking at how thinking patterns and therefore perceptual patterns. Although, like modal operators, the same ones are in the meta model is a metaprogram. It's a choice metaprogram. So that's where there is redundancy between the two models. So how you use the meta model, you representationally track from a word to the screen in your mind, see if you can represent it. If you can't represent it, ask questions until you can. So that's going to be the skill of doing that. And so that's going to require the detailing and also the skepticism as you are noticing, can I represent that? Do I understand what you're saying on your terms without hallucinating? So one of the skills of using the meta model effectively is losing the mind so we stop hallucinating. I know what I mean by that word. What do you mean by that word? Would be the clarification check that we do in coaching. Okay, so, okay.
I guess that last thing you said, Michael, is what normally would be a problem for a communicator, because when someone says something, sometimes it's obvious to me what my map is about. Like, because when you said when you are listening to someone, do you see a picture in your mind? And sometimes I do see a picture of my mind even without clarifying what the other person is trying to say, right? So my question is how would you correct that, for example? Because it's like too obvious sometimes. And
well, this is where knowing your own self is the key. And the more you know your own self and your tendency to fill things in, and your ability to really lose the mind, come to the senses. So it's losing that meta mind, and now it's much more respectful. How are you using that term? Because I could impose my definitions and then get disappointed when you don't think the same way I do. So the more I can really go to that know-nothing state and be curious. So that's where the curiosity of NLP, if I can get in a real curious state and use that tracking system. I can't track that word. So you said something about your self-esteem. How are you? I know what I mean when I use that terminology. I'm talking about unconditional positive regard. Is that what you're talking about? No, I'm talking about my skill in getting this next level job. Oh, that's what you're talking about. I call that self-confidence in what you can do. I don't call that self-esteem. So I can now work with your language. I just have to keep putting my definitions, my understandings aside. And to do that, you have to be pretty confident in yourself to put your understandings aside. Because it takes, an insecure person can't do that. Because insecure people tend to do the identification, I am my experience. And my definitions and my words is my experience, and I just can't set, who would I be? So it takes a lot of security to be able to put that aside, knowing that it's just a way of thinking. And I can try on this other way of thinking, because I'm not going to lose myself. And it just takes a lot of practice and commitment to doing that to really get that well trained in. Okay?
In the process of the interview regarding DJ, I noticed that he was mentioning about the voices at the back of his head. And he was doing the hand gesture several times. I counted 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
In the process of the interview, would semantic gestures play a big role in unfolding what's hidden behind the motivation of the person, in why he's learning? Because you asked about identity and you asked about the belief, and sometimes those things are being expressed by the body unconsciously.
Right.
So in the process of interview, you could point that out and clarify
and ask about it. Yeah. Especially if it has a big effect. Because I want to know how this works now.
So, Michael, during your training, do you see the effect of culture in the languages, or is it all across the board that people tend to generalize?
Oh, yeah.
So it's all across the board.
Yeah, every language is built that way. So language, by its very definition, every time you identify something, you created a category. And so it's a generalization. So something as simple as a chair. Well, that's the prototype-looking chair. But there's another chair, but it doesn't have a back. Then there's the beanbag chair. Then there's the lounge chair. And then you could sit on a bench and call it a chair, or a rock and call it a chair. So chair becomes pretty, I can do a prototype picture of a chair in here, but if someone says he picked up the chair and threw it, and I'm thinking about a great big old relaxing sofa type of chair, I said, boy, that guy was strong. He picked up a chair and threw it at him. But if I'm thinking of a little folding chair, so it's a category, and that's how language is built.
Yeah, and also for metaphors, I don't know in anywhere else around the world, but when I coach in Indonesia, a lot of people used to like using examples to explain something.
Yeah.
So it's everywhere.
It's everywhere. It's everywhere. Metaphor is great. Meta, forein. The old Greek word forein means to bear. So here's something I don't understand. So I bring to a meta level something I do understand. I'll understand this in terms of that. So a metaphor is something I have brought to bear on this that I do understand, so I can understand that. So here's communication. It's a war. Here's communication. It's a dance. So using this to understand that, and every metaphor will highlight certain aspects of the new experience, and it'll hide certain aspects of the new experience. So now we got a couple questions. What does this metaphor highlight? And what does it hide? What's in the shadows of the metaphor? Now, in the book, Metaphors We Live By, George Lakoff and another guy, Metaphors We Live By, they talk about entailments, which is a metaphor itself. An animal that comes in, its tail also comes in. So if a metaphor is like an animal, it comes in, but it also brings in entailments. Things that you don't want to buy that, you want to buy this part of it, but this part comes in. So where are some of the unintended and unpleasant and unwanted entailments from that metaphor? And every metaphor will have those unpleasant parts that just come in with it. That's unexpected. So where does the metaphor break down? This is like this. In what aspects? In what aspects not? And so working with metaphors, and metaphors can define a culture. So what are the metaphors in this business? What's the metaphors in this family? So is this business like a family? Is this business like a hierarchy, like a kingship? So how is it like this and how is it not like this? And given this metaphor, what can we do and what can we not do? So that's where metaphors become something that we'll want to really keep our minds alert to. So the thing that can stop anything would be a meta-level structural thing, or any of the distortions at this level, distorted beliefs, distorted decisions, identities, understandings, permissions, prohibitions. So all of the meta-level at the distortion level, the presuppositional structural level, that can interfere with this. So it could be the voices that tells me and gets by which I compare myself to other people during a learning process. So it could be an old belief. Learning this is complex. Complex learning is hard. Learning that's hard takes a long time. It could be a set of limiting beliefs that prevent us from having a good one. So what we want to do, and do we have the papers to pass out on transforming a limiting belief? So let's pass those out. So we've got a little sheet that's going to be coming around. It's a pattern, transforming limiting beliefs into enhancing beliefs. And of course, the first thing is to identify it. You can't change it, transform it, unless you can identify and catch the limiting belief. So that'll be our first task, identify a limiting belief. Did everybody catch one as you were doing your elicitation this morning?
I didn't catch it.
Didn't catch any? Okay. Okay. So you may or may not. This will be the first step of what we're going to do. Here are some sentence stems that can help you begin to identify a limiting belief. What I believe about myself and learning is, what I believe about people when I try to learn with them, through them, from them is, what I believe about the world or about life regarding learning is. So that might help to stimulate some limiting beliefs. Some great examples that are common. I can't learn quickly. I can't learn efficiently. I can't learn all this stuff. It's too overwhelming. I'm a slow learner. I have a learning disability. And the list could go on and on and on. So the first thing we want to do is to identify any limiting beliefs about learning. So the more we can clean that out, the better your learning experience here. Notice the internal representation. So notice how you're representing the limiting belief in your mind. Now, beliefs are words. Beliefs are sentences. So that's why they're going to be at the structural level of distortions or generalizations, a lost performative. A belief is a sentence. So a belief is not just a word, it's not just an emblem, it's a sentence that creates a structure, and it's usually a cause-effect belief. This prevents me from, it could be an identity belief, I'm not a good learner. It could be an identity belief, a complex equivalence belief. It could be a historical belief. So, my dad said, so it could be that kind of a belief. So So it's going to be a sentence. Once you get the sentence, then we want to bring it down to it to be a movie on the theater of your mind. So you're a slow learner. So now we got a slow would be an adverb of the speed of learning. So learning, slow learning. How slow? And what do you mean by slow? You say words slowly. You input slowly. You output slowly. You need reflection time. How slow? It takes you 1 day to learn. It takes you 4 days. So when you bring it down, a lot of what happens so often is what made sense at this level, when you bring it down, it starts disappearing. It just doesn't. We've drawn a conclusion, but it was really founded on nothing. My daughter said that to me years and years and years ago. I was pushing her toward some academics, and her real gift was music and art. That was really what she was wired for. She said, "I'm a slow learner," and I said, "How slow?" And it was like, she was 13, and she was like, "Well, slow." No, I don't know. What is slow? And so as she was trying to explain that, eventually she couldn't grab it, which oftentimes happens, that what made sense at that sentence level when you try it. So I started giving her lots of hints about it. So is it that in your mind, the picture goes slow? So then we played around with things that she had been, we had seen a movie, and I said, so have you learned that scene when Neo goes into the Matrix and does this or that, and so it pops in slowly? No, I can learn that quickly. What about roller skating? Can you learn? And so trying to find some referent, and I said, maybe it's not slow. Here's reframing. Maybe it's not slow. Maybe it's you're more thorough. And she really liked that. So maybe you're more thorough. Maybe instead of the other kids getting it and then running out to recess, maybe you like to think about it a bit. Maybe you're reflective and you'd like to do it in a thorough way. So helping her not to have that, I'm a slow learner, I'm a thorough learner. I do reflection. So this is what we want to do with that, getting the representations, thinking about that belief, what pictures, words, sensations, sounds are you aware of? And be ready for a lot of limiting beliefs to have nothing, no referent in reality. It'll start popping. Meta-model limiting belief. Question the cause-effect. How does that cause this? Or the non-specificity or the overgeneralization of the belief. And what the meta-model essentially does is deframe. When we get to mind lines, one of the whole mind line strategies, two of the mind lines, is deframing. And that's essentially what we're doing here. What would you prefer to believe about that aspect of learning? Well, it would be more enhancing or empowering belief. Describe it fully. State it as a single sentence. I can learn new materials effectively and efficiently. So that would be a capacity belief. I can. I believe I can learn to improve my learning skills. Another capacity belief. So think about a belief that you'd like to have and then check for ecology. Is that belief good for you, ecological? Would it enrich and enhance the relationships and what you're doing? Any problems with it? Would it mess anything up? So a real basic pattern of what we're going to do here for a limiting belief. Who's got one that I can do an interview with you, go through this process as a demonstration? All right, thank you. So, are you aware of a limiting belief that stops you from being the learner that you want to be?
So I applied it through my mind, and I don't believe that I have a limiting belief in this kind of space.
Okay.
So I learn really well in this kind of
Okay.
space. I battle to learn when I have to do it on my own.
Okay.
I can hold it. Yes, I can.
Okay. So you battle when you have to do it on your own. Okay. So what do you believe?
I believe I need people and experience. I need to experience
Okay.
it
Okay.
to learn most effectively.
So I need people, or I need an experience to learn effectively. Do you also believe I can't do it on my own?
No, I can do it. It's just not that much fun.
Okay. So what you believe it's not so much fun to learn on my own?
Yes.
It's not so much fun?
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe it's hard to learn?
Yes.
I believe it's hard to learn on my own.
Yes. Much harder than this.
Much harder.
Yes.
Okay. So that's the limiting belief that we have. So if I could peek into the theater of your mind and you say the words, it's much harder to learn on my own, what are the pictures coming to your mind?
So it's not a picture, it's the word motivation. That's,
So the word motivation comes to your mind, and so I'm not getting it.
okay, so energy, it takes a lot of energy to learn on my own.
Okay.
While this feels very natural, it feels like it's just flowing into me easily.
Okay.
And then the other one I need to like get into me piece by piece.
Okay. So the limiting belief, it takes a lot of energy to learn on my own.
Yes.
And it takes piece by piece. Is that what you see on the theater of your mind? You see yourself? Or you're in the movie?
I'm in the movie. So
Okay.
it would be, so if I could see these words, and I need to chew them and get them in. So
Okay.
for me, it's easy to tell you the difference between the good one and the bad one. So the good one is I feel my neurology is on fire. I feel like I have these little holes in my body where the information just goes and gets stuck everywhere, and I'm a ferocious learning machine. I just chew it up, and I absorb it.
Okay.
And now I've got to dig those holes into myself to put that information in me.
Now the word hard, it's hard to do it by myself, is beginning to make sense. Okay.
Yes.
So when you think about the movie in your mind, are you in the movie and you're associated into it?
Yes.
And it's happening to you?
Yes.
You used your left hand and kept doing this. Is that what you're doing in the movie?
So no, I'm just using my hand to explain, and because I'm holding the microphone, I would not be using both hands, but otherwise I would be using
So
both hands.
what are you doing? If I saw the picture of you having to dig holes in yourself so that the learning will go in and set, what would I see?
You'd see me getting tired and having to really work up my motivation just to get there in the first place.
Okay, so now you're talking about motivation again. So how are you using that word? You've talked motivation and energy.
So how am I using the word motivation? The motivation would be like this fire.
Okay.
So when I am learning well, I'm really motivated for it. I'm in a good state. It's as if my neurology, I can see that fire running all over my body.
Okay.
And I'm feeling kind of cold and
Okay.
lonely.
Okay. So I'll just make some comments about what I'm hearing. I'm hearing this metaphor of fire. I'm hearing this metaphor of holes. I'm hearing this metaphor of motivation and energy and flowing or not flowing, digging. So hearing a lot of kinesthetic metaphors. Now, if I actually saw you and how you're picturing yourself in this limiting picture, what would I see or sense?
So in the limiting picture, definitely more slumped.
Okay. Okay.
Probably not breathing all that well.
Okay.
Battling to get my mind, battling to get my eyes on the paper.
Okay.
It would definitely have to be a book. I cannot even begin to learn on an electronic medium.
Okay. So now I've got a picture of what you're talking about. I've got some picture of that, the limitation there. So what's causing that? These are the symptoms. The slouch, the lack of energy, the trying to get something. What for you is causing that?
So one thing is also time that comes up. I believe probably that I have, is that I perform best if I have a specific time that I have to get this done in. So it's probably the freedom of too much time.
The freedom of too much time takes the energy away, the fire away, and then it's not flowing. So how does that work? I don't get that.
Again, it's easier for me to relate it back to where it does work is I've got only now, I'm here, so I'm so scared I miss anything that I'm bringing my best state.
Because you're so scared.
Yes, FOMO, fear of missing out. It's a real thing.
Okay. 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 So we're at number 2, and we're trying to get that representation of that. So I'm seeing several things. How would I see time, and how would I see time if I'm going to play a movie in my mind of you slouching, not having the energy, and it looks like you're struggling to learn from a book, and there's too much time, too much freedom of time. How would I picture that so that I can make a movie of how it works?
I would have time allocated to learn something, but probably too much time.
So how does that work? I'm not quite understanding how. I could understand you needing to produce something at a certain time, but learning? How does learning get stopped and the fire goes out when you have too much?
Probably there's no specific outcome that I don't. How will I know that I learned it if I learned it on my own?
Okay, so what's missing is the outcome.
Yeah.
So what's been deleted from the limiting picture is you don't have a desired outcome in terms of learning, a learning outcome.
Yes, and the measurement of how did I actually do?
Okay, so an outcome and a measurement.
Yes.
So an outcome and a measurement are two qualities that need to be in your picture.
Yes.
Okay. Let's go now to number 4, and that is, what would you prefer to believe? If you had a new sentence, the old sentence was, I find it hard to learn on my own.
That I'm as good a learner on my own as I am in this training.
Okay. Okay, so that's what you would like to believe. Okay. So what do we need to do for a picture? Probably some outcome, probably some measurement. Anything else?
Not so much freedom of time. I need that time. So if it's going to be half an hour, it's going to be a half an hour of genius state. And then I need to know what the outcome is and what the measurement is. How will I know that I use that time effectively?
So which of those helps to create the fire?
It's a combination between the time and the measurement.
Okay, and how does that work? What do you believe about outcome and measurement that helps to put some kind of a fire inside of you?
So time for me is precious. I want to make absolutely the most of the time that I do have.
Okay.
And if I measure it that I did make the most of that time, so of the two, the time is more important.
Okay.
And then measure how effectively I use that time.
Okay. Okay. Now you mentioned 30 minutes. Is that a
what-
good time learning segment?
I would like to do 2 blocks of 30 minutes.
Okay.
Because I know that the first block might be slightly more difficult, but if I then in that time measure and I see, geesh, this is what I did achieve, then the next 30 minutes would be a lot
Okay.
easier.
Okay. So here's some feedback of what I'm hearing. I'm hearing you need intentionality. You need the focus of intentionality.
Okay.
You need that outcome. So
But
you
I
need.
wonder what the intentionality difference is between when I do learn well and when I don't learn well, because I would think the intentionality would be the same.
Yeah, and what is it?
The intentionality is the same.
Okay. So that's not the difference that makes the difference.
No.
Okay. So the other thing I'm hearing is about measurement, and it sounds like you like to have little bits of success. That builds. Is that what builds up the fire?
Yes, that definitely builds up the fire.
Okay.
And as in my previous, when we did the exercise, a frame that Cheryl set in 2008 in my module 1 is, what if you were going to be learning the most important thing in your life in the next 5 minutes? What would your state look like?
Okay. Okay. Is that what creates fire for you?
It creates a heck of a lot of fire.
Okay.
Because I'm worried I'm going to miss out.
Okay. Okay. So what if you add that to your desired belief that here's this curiosity, here's the state of awe and wonderment. What if in the next 5 minutes, 30 minutes, what if this learning segment, I'm going to find something that's going to just change my life?
That is big.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's going to be a belief system above the belief system. I can learn as effectively with myself as inside of a training group. So when you try that on, how does that?
Yeah, it definitely makes a huge difference.
Okay. How huge?
Not as big as this training, so I don't know what's still there.
Okay. Okay. But
it's from a 2 out of 10. It's probably now like a 6 out of 10, which
Okay.
is already a lot.
okay. So what we've added is not a measurement, and but a larger what if, and the possibility of discovering the greatest thing that you can discover. So that wonderment. Do we still need to add some measurements?
Yes, that
Okay.
would ramp it
Okay.
up for me.
Do you normally count things?
Not for myself so much.
Okay. Now, so is that what we need to add to the piece?
Yeah, that would definitely. So yes, tick. I did that 30 minutes. How effectively did I use it?
So what do you
though?
want to measure? For learning, what do you want to measure? What would be
Probably retention,
retention would be one thing. Okay.
application.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, so those
So
would be two things.
would that be thinking about an application?
No, like doing it.
So it doesn't count until you actually go do it.
No, doesn't.
Okay. Because the strategy I heard from BJ was like he's getting some kudos as he's thinking this is working and this is, and he's getting that while he's preparing, while he's learning before he goes does.
Oh, so he's just visualizing it. I'm going to steal that.
Okay.
Yes, because that could make a difference.
Okay. So if I could see in the theater of your mind what you're now presenting as a learning strategy.
So I'm learning, and as I'm learning, I'm looking at myself, applying it, imagining where I can apply it, how I can tell somebody about it. Oh, and there's another one. Then I'm going to go into a lot more detail
Okay.
and get out of that global into the detail.
Okay.
So that would also make a big, yes, I like that. Can I keep it? The ecology is good too.
Okay. So as you think about this, anything that this would mess up?
No,
Okay.
no. Sure, that imagining it was really useful resource.
Okay. So you've got a picture of how to do it, and you added a few things. So
And that's that experiential element that was missing in the
Okay.
learning. Aha.
okay.
Okay. Good.
Since retention is important, and one thing that creates that fire, summarize what you've learned.
So what I've learned is that I am as good a learner on my own when I visualize and imagine myself applying
Okay.
or training or teaching this that I'm learning.
Okay.
I'm adding to that the meta state of this could be the most important thing in the next half an hour.
Okay.
And then automatically it will be good use of my time because
Okay.
I'll be learning as well as I learn, yeah.
Okay. Okay. How much fire does that create?
A lot.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Michael.